Some very interesting research is being done right here in Montreal on the link between screen time and ADHD in teenagers. I mean, I think we all know that kids spend too much time on screens, right? It's a struggle I could say literally every parent I know is dealing with, and it certainly got worse during the pandemic. If you've been wondering how screen time affects your teen, if it exacerbates ADHD symptoms, well, that's what this research is all about. Patricia Conrod is a researcher at Sainte-Justine Hospital, and she joins us now. Thank you so much for your time today.
Hello.
So thank you for being here. I think let's just start with a very simple, straightforward question, which probably has a lot behind it. But is there a link between how much time teens spend on screens and ADHD?
Yes, our research absolutely confirms that there's a link. And I'd have to say it's home-based research in the sense that these are data that come from Montreal. And it's quite a rigorous study. It's a study of 4,000 adolescents who were followed every year for 5 years on a number of mental health measures, but also objective measures of neuropsychological functions, the very test that you would use in a neuropsychological clinic to evaluate whether a young person suffers from attentional deficits and hyperactivity.
I immediately wonder if it kind of comes down to how much time they're spending on screens, or more specifically, what they're watching on those screens.
Yeah, very good question. And this study actually evaluated, to the extent that we could, evaluated both dimensions. And what's kind of interesting about this study is that we use different types of screen times as a control for each other. And so what we showed is, yes, more time on a screen is associated with higher ADHD symptoms. Young people who are prone to higher ADHD symptoms are more attracted to screens and spend more time on them. But even if you account for that effect, if a young person increases their screen time use over and above their average level of use, that you will see a further increase in their ADHD symptoms. That said, there also seemed to be a specific or a greater effect of social media relative to things like video gaming, watching television, movies, or just general computer use. And the social media effect was particularly striking in the sense that it was longer lasting. And it could be explained by the effect of social media on these objective measures of neuropsychological functioning that tap into impulsivity, cognitive control, and that are highly linked to ADHD symptoms, but are also linked to risk for other types of mental health concerns, including addiction. So, this is there's some very concerning findings that absolutely need further research. As well as, I think, some coordination and cooperation by government and industry to better be able to study and begin to start to make the internet and social media a safer place for young people.
I was thinking about how there seems to have been just such a huge rise in kids. My daughter has ADHD, and I know so many other children. There seems to have been a spike in ADHD, and I can't help but wonder, how much that has to do with increased kids are on screens, they're playing video games, and sort of there's like a level of hyper stimulation. I don't even know if that's a word, but is that kind of what's coming into play here?
Yes, I mean, there's a level of hyperstimulation, but there's also, I think, lack of time spent on other activities that better promote cognitive control, like reading a novel, or that require more sustained attention, like having a conversation that has a beginning, middle, and end, listening to other people and their views. Now, why does social media have a stronger effect? That's the big question, and our data weren't necessarily able to directly answer that. So, all we could do is kind of speculate and draw on other literature. It's possible that the effects of social media are that they're young people, well, it's just the nature of the content that they're exposed to. It's content that comes from their peers. It's snippets, very short, brief images or concepts. They require very little sustained attention, and in fact, as soon as you lose attention, you can just swipe and go to a different piece of information. It's passive viewing. It's not engaged viewing. And so it's a type of activity that kids are spending more and more and more time engaging in that's not contributing to their development of cognitive control, but also potentially training them to be quite intolerant of having to sustain their attention.
We're speaking with Patricia Conrod, researcher at Sainte-Justine's, about the link between screen time and ADHD symptoms in teenagers. I'm imagining it's not as simple as just limiting screen time. I mean, first of all, that's a battle pretty much every parent I know is engaged in. But what would your advice be to parents while we're waiting for more of this research to be done and for governments to act on it?
We've published quite a number of studies, from this particular cohort on the effects of screen time on mental health, and over again, we are seeing that just social media has this particular effect. And there was a signal that watching television and movies might have more of a protective effect in contrast to the social media effect. And I think it's because young people as young as like 12, 13 are still, or at that time, were still limited to content that is, controlled, edited, regulated for minors. And so it's content that has been edited and reviewed, some censorship to some extent. And I think it is, the idea is that it's better for kids because it has been evaluated for its appropriate for young people. The thing about social media is that there is none of that happening right now for young people. And this brings up the need for better regulation. The United Kingdom just passed a law that, it's a really significant one for the protection of children online, and that is that it's holding industry responsible for the treatment of children as children. And so the strategy has been, if you are putting a strategy out there, just like, a Tylenol bottle has to have a child-proof cap on it, social media has to have some child-proof functions to them. And they haven't done their job to make it a safe place for young people.
I was just going to ask, now that you brought it up, we did an interview the other day talking about, in the U.S. anyway, a variety of states, and lots of them, I think at least 30, taking action against social media companies because it seems incumbent upon them to change things, and they don't seem to be in a rush to do it. So I wonder if you think the Canadian government here, even provincially, if provinces should get together and insist that they be responsible for some of their content.
I absolutely do, and because they can do it. They have been doing it. They have been experimenting and doing research on social influence. It's been clear from the Facebook files from the Wall Street Journal that they were doing experiments to understand, what is going to draw and keep young people on their platform. So why not turn that research and those activities towards promoting safety and reducing harm? And there's very little evidence that there has been anything implemented to reduce the harm that young people are experiencing from the industry. So I'm fully supportive of it.
I have to tell you, I've been taking notes through this whole interview, and I'm going to use stuff to talk to my child about her symptoms and managing them. But this idea of if you're going to consume content online, that it be, like more engaging, that it tells a story, that it stimulates your brain in a way that you can take something away from it. I find this incredibly helpful and useful, and I very much appreciate your time today, Patricia.
Thanks very much.
That's Patricia
Conrad. I appreciate it too.
Yeah, thank you. That's Patricia Conrad. Hopefully we'll speak again about this research being done right here in Montreal at Sainte-Justine's.
This thing we've been talking about with kids and social media, how long have we been talking about this?
Yeah.
How much has changed?
Nothing.